Hello there! Today is my mother's birthday, which gives me an excellent excuse to bake another cake. I had some ambitious plans for this cake involving piping work, which is not my strong suit and went a little beyond my current skill level, but I wanted to give it my best shot. So follow along and watch me learn a lesson or two. This is She's Making Something, and today I'm making a crochet themed birthday cake for my mom. My mom asked for classic yellow butter cake with chocolate frosting, so that's what she got. As usual, I bake my layers a few days ahead of time, wrap them in plastic, and store them in the freezer. So after unwrapping them again, I level them out with a serrated knife and they're ready to stack and coat with some chocolate buttercream. But I don't throw away the cut off domes because I'm going to use them later to make the little yarn balls that go on top of the cake. Once the cake is stacked and frosted, it goes in the fridge to chill. While the chocolate frosting is delicious, the brown color didn't really fit into my design idea, so I made a batch of white vanilla frosting to use for decoration. I put a really thin layer of this white frosting on the cake to act as a blank canvas for the design. Once again, the cake gets chilled in the fridge and I start working with my cake scraps. I thoroughly washed my hands and then used my fingers to break the scraps into crumbs, trying to get the pieces as small as I can without bringing out my blender. The cake is pretty moist and the crumbs are already sticking to each other pretty well, so I only needed to add a small amount of the frosting that was discarded from smoothing out the cake to act as a binder. And you can see how it forms into a dough, sticking to itself and forming a ball. This is basically what cake pops are made from, and I roll 4 little cake pop balls from my mixture. I'm only going to use 3 on my cake, but I made an extra for practice and I'm glad I did. And these will chill in the fridge as well to harden up. I knew I wanted to use purple for my cake, but I didn't want just one shade of purple, so I split the rest of my white frosting into 3 bowls and used gel food coloring to make a pinkish purple, a bluish purple, and then a darker purple. The piping work on this cake had me super nervous, so I took some time while everything chilled to practice. I had studied pictures on the internet and watched other videos to try and figure out how to make my buttercream look like crocheted yarn, and I thought I'd figured out a way to make it work using loops and squiggles. I had lost my small round piping tip to the jaws of the sink disposal, and I thought I could just cut the tip of the bag instead, but this practice session showed me it wasn't going to work like I thought, and I would have to run to the little store around the corner to grab a cheap piping tip I could use until I could replace my nicer one. So before I left, I made my crochet hook from white gum paste to give it some extra time to harden. Using my own hooks as a guide, I rolled a thin snake, flattened out a section for the grip, and cut and shaped the hook at the end. Once I got back from my little errand, I used some shiny yellow luster dust and a food safe brush to give my hook some color and shine. Since my yarn is purple, I chose yellow because it is purple's opposite, and I knew it would stand out and not blend into the frosting. I was worried about running out of my colored frosting, so I decided to pipe the yarn balls first so that I knew I would have enough to cover those. So I grabbed my first one, and honestly, I really struggled with it for a bit. The buttercream wasn't flowing right, and I couldn't get it to work, and it was just looking pretty awful. It took me a while, but I figured out the easiest way to do it was to leave it down on the parchment paper and pipe one continuous stream going back and forth. If I went slow enough, I could lay the lines right next to each other. So I chalked that first one up to practice, fixed the flow issue, and moved on to the next one, which ended up looking a lot better. Still not perfection, but lots better. I could get the tops of the yarn balls to look decent, piping lines back and forth, then switching direction and piping back and forth, and I hoped I could hide the loopy sides and bottom edges a little when I placed them on the cake. They aren't amazing, but they're done and back into the fridge. My original plan for this cake was to make a scarf that started at the top and wrapped all the way around the cake to end back at the front. So I marked where I thought it should go and started piping, doing 2 rows of the pattern with one color, then 2 rows with another, and 2 rows with another, and on and on and on. I thought if I did 6 loops for each row, it would keep the scarf roughly the same width as it wrapped around the cake. It didn't take me long though to realize that I have no idea how to get it to curve without looking weird, and I had to stop and laugh at myself and my wonky scarf before taking a moment to rethink my idea. I didn't want to scrape it all off and try again because I didn't have enough time to make more frosting and color match it to the yarn balls I already made, so I just winged it. I piped another section of scarf, this time ending with the fringe that I wanted, and then just piped scarf sections all willy-nilly and hoped they looked like they connected and looped around somehow. So the pattern that I came up with, which looks decently like crochet if you're not too picky, goes like this. It's a row of circles if you're feeling neat and tidy, or loops if you're feeling rushed and lazy, and then a second row of circles right next to it. The spot where the 2 rows of circles meet is covered up with a squiggly line. The circles have to go on first, so if you're changing colors at all, then you have to do the next row of loops in the new color before covering them up with a squiggle. This can all be done in one color or as many colors as you want, and can probably look a whole lot cooler if you're better at piping or more patient than I am. But I'm pretty proud of myself for figuring this one out. Once I was done with my piping endeavor, I took the balls of yarn from the fridge and used my offset spatula to slide them onto the cake. The buttercream was stiff and wouldn't smear, but I was afraid the lines might snap and break off, so I was gentle, and I strategically placed my least favorite parts toward the middle of the threesome and the better looking parts facing out. Then I positioned the crochet hook right where I want it, and pipe a few more lines of frosting over the hook so it looks like the yarn is wrapped around it and trailing off. Like the scarf is not yet finished and it's still a work in progress. Then I just piped a little bubble border around the bottom edge to help finish it off. And there's the cake. It's messy, it's imperfect, but I made it, so I love it anyway. Head over to my channel to see some of my other creations, and please subscribe and like this video. This is a new channel and it would help me out a lot. This is She's Making Something. Thanks for watching. And happy birthday, Mom.